But by the way, Steven's one of many guys, Rob, from a CFL market that's tuned in because they don't get CFL coverage in their markets. I'm hearing it from Winnipeg, Vancouver. We got a lot of viewers in Ontario. So we'll broaden this discussion here to all of the CFL. But I've said it many times in the last couple weeks. This is the first Rider training camp I've missed in 21 years. My go-to for information has been the Regina Leader Post.
Thank you.
Murray has been a warrior.
My go-to as well. I wasn't there either, so...
Right, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All the outlets do a great job. But Murray's in there day in, day out, grinding. Maybe Murray's completely full of crap. I don't know. I'm just believing what he's telling me.
I haven't told him that since yesterday.
Right.
The McNuggets.
No, Murray.
Right.
It's sometimes it's an unappreciated art what a beat guy has to do every day, day in, day out. Sit through all sorts of practices and listen to all sorts of however you want to categorize it from coaches and players and what have you. And you do that for a long football season. And I mean. Rod, I don't have to tell you about it. I mean, you've covered hockey and football in the same season and had an interminable run of doing that, and you know the rigors of that with bus rides and everything. But it's a grind, and I couldn't do what Murray does. I wouldn't have the patience for it. I wouldn't have the stamina for it, and I really appreciate the kind words that you've had to say about him because it's a cool job to cover sports, but every day pounding out the stories. It's a long marathon, and so thanks for the words of appreciation for Murray. I echo them.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I can easily tell you this. Sunday morning, we were dealing with this health issue in my family, and I opened my Twitter, and I saw somebody reporting something from Rider practice on Sunday, and I'm like, oh, yeah, they're practicing. I don't miss being there. Like, it was 20 years. It was fun.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of guys that have worked in the league for a long time, both hockey and football guys calling, and we're talking about stuff. And we're like, when you're doing it, it's a lot of fun. It's fast paced. Your blood's pumping, right? But when you're out, you're not in a rush to get back.
I'll tell you a story from 2017, and you were much more eagle-eyed than I was that day. Duron Carter got in a little dispute with Sam Williams, and I was covering practice that day allegedly, but I was on my phone. I was Googling Cresden Butler because I wanted to do a feature on Cresden Butler, and he'd been all over the National Football League. So I was tracing the history of Cresden Butler, staring at my phone, totally impervious to the fact that there was a fight going on in the field. Well, you had a much better vantage point than I did. So had Murray been at practice, I think there was a pretty good chance that fight would have been detected. In the meantime, I'm Cresden Butler Googling. So that gave me a real appreciation for what Murray does.
Well, when my book comes out on the Riders, that story will be in it. But I was told at the time when the Duron Carter fight broke out with Sam Williams, I was told not to report it. So I didn't. But and I have photos.
Was it a good one?
It was a one-punch fight.
I heard it was
Duron can fight.
Duron won very handily.
Duron ended it fast. I think Duron can do anything he wants to do in life.
Hurricane Carter for a minute.
Yeah, I think he's just scratching the surface on his potential, and I hope this year that he starts to find it with the BC Lions. And kudos, by the way, to Duron for coming on last week. And so today we've had Kevin Glenn asking to come on. Otha Foster, the BC Lions, will be on soon. Marcel Desjardins of the Ottawa Red Blacks scheduled to be with us on Friday.
When's Bo?
This is a lot.
No Bo yet.
Bo Levi.
You got the campaign.
You know Bo has declined. Levi Mitchell
be on
and Warren Woods have respectfully declined invitations to come on the Rod Pedersen show. So those two should interview each other.
You got to understand, though, this show airs right in Woodsy's prime golfing hours. I mean, nothing takes precedence over golfing.
Right. And Jamie Nye, Clark's telling me from the Green Zone, has declined, but respectfully. Because I don't think they're allowed to come on by their bosses. That's what I think it is. But anyways, RV, we're glad to have you here.
Oh, this is great.
So through training camp and going into week one, and maybe we'll take a look at these other week one games here too. How are you feeling about the guys in the green hats, as Don Hewitt likes to call them?
Woods, by the way, is where Warren's golf ball usually ends up.
Yeah. So that's how he got the name.
To get that in.
Tiger's cousin.
This has really been an interesting struggle this week because I've been trying to figure out where to put the Rough Riders in the predictions, and I'm planning to run them in Thursday's best-selling edition of the Leader Post. And one day I have 2, and one day I have 5, and one day I have 4. And what's starting to really dominate my 14 brain cells right now is that This is a team that won 12 games last year and had a home playoff game with virtually no offense and a dominant defense and good special teams. And it's easy to discount the Rough Riders because they have the same quarterback, pretty much the same contingent of receivers, the same offensive coordinator, and Chris Jones is gone. But as I break it down, I look at this team facet by facet, and I think, okay, maybe the defense won't be as dominant as it was last season, but it's still going to be very good. You subtract Willie Jefferson, but you're adding Micah Johnson, who had more sacks than Willie Jefferson, and he was playing an interior defensive line position. It's tougher to get sacks there. Sam McGuavin's going to be tough to replace, but Calgary is trying to replace Alex Singleton. There's losses elsewhere or departures elsewhere in the division. So I look at this defense, and I still think you can put it in the upper tier in the Canadian Football League. You look at the offense, and it can't possibly help but improve upon what happened last year. They've put Zach Collaros, I think, in a better position. They've got William Powell to anchor the ground game. And they've got a good offensive line, and it's year 2 in the scheme. So maybe the offense can be average. Well, if the offense can improve to even average, and I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation, if the defense can continue to be top tier, and if the special teams can continue to be good, which they should with Craig Dickinson, Brett Lowther is elite. John Ryan, I think, is going to be great. They have 3 guys who can take a kickback all the way for a touchdown. If you dissect this team, I think it actually has a chance to be a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Second or third. I initially was thinking, fifth, they've got the same quarterback, same offensive coordinator, and you get caught up in belaboring the things that you belabored during football season. But as I look at it, hey, they were 12-6 last year, and there's really not a lot of huge change to the roster. Derek?
My only concern, and I don't even know if it's a concern, is and the defense is so critical with this team. And you mentioned the personnel. What is the drop off from Chris Jones to Jason Shivers? I know he's been groomed. It's virtually the same system. I think Jeremy O'Day. I was reading a column where you guys had sat down with Jeremy O'Day today in the Leader Post. Yourself and Murray McCormick.
4,700 words of transcribing. But
I did.
My fingers are shorter now.
I read it at breakfast this morning, and the thing he basically said is it's going to be the same scheme, but the play calling may be different under Jason Shivers. That's just my only, and it's because it's unknown. Yeah. It's not a discredit to I just don't know. And as I mentioned earlier, when you kind of have the Jedi Master of defense and setting up schemes to neutralize other teams, when he leaves, is Obi-Wan Kenobi going to be as good? I'm a Star Wars geek, but that's kind of how I feel about it. And to me, it's kind of a to be determined. I don't want to put that on Jason Shivers and say he's not going to be as good, because I don't know that. But it's the I don't know factor, because they were so good last year. Yeah. So good. And that's why I can't give them, in my gut, number 1. But because they were historically good and the changeover in personnel hasn't been that much, that's why I can't put them at number 5 either. So I'm kind of waffling in that 2, 3, 4 spot. I think I will probably settle on 3.
Rob, I read your column about the Riders pursuing Bo Levi Mitchell here in free agency, and that's today's edition, right? I read it online, but that is in today?
I think I alluded to it. I've mentioned that about 14,000 times since February.
So my question, and we got a lot of Stamps fans viewing here today and probably listening too, what do you know about the pursuit of Bo Levi Mitchell? Were they even close at all? I mean, and the reason I say that is Jeremy O'Day and Craig Dickinson are very smart guys. They understand the importance of the quarterback position. That's why they threw the boat at Bo Levi, right? That's why they backed up the Brinks truck for Bo Levi. And for whatever reason, he wasn't interested. We know the importance of the position because week 1 of 2015, Darian's Achilles is blown and the season's gone. I do an after dinner story on the rubber chicken circuit about that. Like, I'm driving home, my wife and her inebriated friends from that game, and I've my grip on the steering wheel, I've like bent the steering wheel. I was so upset, and they're like, "Rod, you don't seem very happy." These voices from the back seat, and I'm like, "The season is over."
And we knew
it, and it just I knew the season was done.
And Shea Emery was already hurt by that.
Shea Emery was hurt too, so. I don't know if the roster was flimsy then, why you couldn't recover from a week 1 injury. I don't know. I've moved on. But here we are. And if Zach goes down in week 1, this season is over. Is it not?
You could say that across the division, though.
Well, but I only care about this team. And I asked you about Bo, I guess, so let's start there. How much do you know about, were they even close?
I think they were very close. I think he was very tempted, and I think at one point there were people in the middle of negotiations who thought, he's going to go to Saskatchewan. I think it was that close where there was, at some point, Calgary was thinking, we've got to really up the ante here because he's going to go and play for Saskatchewan. I mean, I think it's as close as you could get without getting him. There's all sorts of different versions, but he was certainly tempted, certainly enticed, and was certainly listening. And which is something when you consider how he's been entrenched in Calgary and what he's done there. It must have been a tremendous offer from the Rough Riders to even have him thinking about it. And you wonder about the possibilities. As big as Bo Levi Mitchell is in Calgary, how big could he have been here? Because you've got all sorts of corporations, and he could have owned the province instantly.
He's a marketing dream. In my opinion, he's a marketing dream.
You're Bo Levi Mitchell in Calgary, but there's also Johnny Hockey, and there's also any number of Flames who are going to be a bigger deal. But in Saskatchewan, I just wonder what kind of package, if there was any package that they put forward to him that made him think there could be ancillary revenues here that could take the football salary and perhaps double it. I mean, look at the things you do during the off season. Look at all the dinners you go to. Now, what if Bo Levi Mitchell was going to all those things?
Very lucrative.
That's it could have been a gold mine.
I think
vehicles from Capital.
I think
all those
Darian
things.
Durant in his peak was getting $7,500 as a speaking event with the Rough Riders. Wow. I mean, he wouldn't get that now, but Bo Levi absolutely would get that. So, yeah, you can tack that on to whatever your salary is as the starting quarterback for the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Now, what I know more than at this point I'm prepared to say about the Bo Levi talks here with the Rough Riders. Maybe that'll go in my Rider book one day. But the Riders threw such a overwhelming offer at him that they were shocked, A, that he didn't take it, and B, that Calgary matched it.
So was it dollars and cents? To the best of your guys' knowledge, why did he stay in Calgary?
For the most part, Calgary matched. And a good tease here is Wally Buono, the interview that we're going to be airing Friday night. It'll drop from our website and a Facebook page, the Rod Pedersen Show, the Wally Buono interview. It's Wally like you've never seen him. But he talked about Bo Levi's leadership abilities, and he's just watched Bo. He's never coached him, but he puts him in the Doug Flutie vein of leadership. Not ability. His ability is obviously great, but his leadership abilities. And Wally says in that interview, I think Calgary was really sweating because their whole franchise's fortunes are tied to that guy.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.